Hello, my name is Holden Chapman. This is my mental health research notes video presentation. So the disorder that I covered in my previous presentation that we had to do after making this one is eating disorders because I found them interesting and they're relatively modern, which is kind of unusual for a mental disorder. What are the different types of eating disorders? Well, I covered seven of them in my previous presentation, which are binge eating disorder, which is basically only eat big amounts and that's it. Anorexia nervosa, which is basically you barely eat anything at all because you're psychologically effective thinking you're overweight. Bulimia nervosa, which is basically you eat basically binge eating disorder, but you barf it out after, and it's like you only do it once a day. Like you only eat once a day and you barf it out after. Pica, which is basically just eat stuff that shouldn't be edible, like plastic, metal, dirt. Someone ate a plane once, like a one-seater plane. Anyways, rumination disorder, which is basically you only eat via regurgitated foods. Avoid and restricted food intake disorder, which is basically just you're insanely picky, but it's like you're picky, but it's on steroids. Like you only eat like two foods and that's it. And night eating syndrome, but it says night eating, but it really isn't night only. It's basically just don't eat at regular times. Like you only eat during the morning. That's it. Or you only eat during night. That's it. It's just very one like very weird times to eat. And then as if from the gift I stop eating, that's a sign of anorexia if it's actually diagnosed that way. So eating disorders are very modern. They really only started to pop up in the 950s, and they're increasing diagnoses throughout these years. But the first recorded one that I could find was during the 12th century because Saint Catherine of Siena, she just wouldn't eat much of anything because of her spiritual denial of self. She was a saint, as you could tell, and there's a picture of her on the bottom. So something I did learn about eating disorders, this is probably very stupid to hear, but I didn't know that pica was an eating disorder. I knew that it was weird to eat stuff that's like the stuff in the photo, like it said having appetite for substances that are largely non-nutritious. But I just thought it was like some sort of symptoms to some larger mental disorder, but it's not. It's its own thing. And it sounds dumb in retrospect, but it's what I learned. And the things I did know before researching, I knew what anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder were because they're pretty common, like the most common ones. I didn't realize that there were so many. As I've said, there were seven main ones that were said in the previous slide. And then there's a person who may be suffering from anorexia right there because she doesn't want to eat that stuff, and she has a tape measure around her to like measure her body proportions, I guess, and she thinks she's overweight or something like that. So how to grow from this? I grew from researching about these eating disorders and making a presentation from them. But learn about how food consumption affects you mentally and physically. Physically, it can alter your body shape. It can make you very skinny or very fat, depends on which one. And it can affect you mentally because it makes you think you're overweight when you're like either underweight or normal, or it just makes you have really weird eating choices like pica rumination disorder. So mental health relates to physical health by your mental state affecting your physicality. If your mental state isn't really that good right now, your physical state will be affected because it's not feeling right and you'll lose basically you'll just not be as strong and agile as you were back then. But if you do good things, it helps your body become stronger, more agile. So it makes you feel better overall, both in mental and physical ways. And the myth that I did bust was people just think that anorexics can just eat and they'll be fine. No, they don't eat because they want to lose weight, even they're underweight for the high and build because they're psychologically affected that they think they're overweight, which is why they eat barely anything, if anything at all. Sometimes they starve for like a couple days or maybe even sometimes weeks. Yeah, it's not really that good, and that's why I busted this myth, and I specifically chose that one. How do I think Americans could be better educated mental health? Giving more importance to it, especially on the masculine side. Mental health, it's not talked about enough for how bad it can actually psychologically affect someone. And it definitely isn't for males because it's even worse for the masculine side. Feminine, it's a bit more common. So if you give more importance to not medical, mental health, people become better educated because they know more about it, and so they become more uh, knowledgeable in mental health problems. And as always, thanks for watching my presentations. Let's go.